Carlson, tonight, happy Monday. You thought you had a great weekend. Did you see what Barack Obama did? It was way more fun than anything that happened at your house on Saturday night. For his 60th birthday, Barack Obama threw himself a party at his estate on Martha's Vineyard, right off the coast of Massachusetts. Now, Obama's place is on the ocean naturally, but unlike your oceanfront property in, say, Destin, Obama's property has been declared eternally exempt from the devastating rise in sea levels that will inevitably accompany the existential crisis of climate change, which, by the way, you caused. So no matter what happens to the global climate, Obama will be safe on Martha's Vineyard, even if you continue to eat steak and use air conditioning, both of which will soon be banned. Ever sensitive to the feelings of his subjects, Obama did his best to downplay the size and the opulence of Saturday's event. His PR team did not mention the hundreds of servants who would be there. The party, they assured us, would be nothing at all like something King Farouk might have hosted in his later years. No resemblance. Barack Obama's party was merely an intimate gathering of, quote, family and friends. And in the end, that's exactly what it was. The thing is, as you can see from the photographs, Barack Obama has an awful lot of very close friends. What's interesting is who they are and who they're not. Joe Biden was not at the party. And that's weird, considering that Joe Biden and Barack Obama are like brothers, as close as two straight men can be, as Joe Biden has told us himself many times. Though if you've been watching carefully through the years, you may have noticed that Barack Obama has never made that claim. He's never said a lot about liking Joe Biden. Now we know he doesn't. So who does Barack Obama like? Well, in a word, celebrities. Obama likes celebrities, lots and lots of celebrities. It was like the red carpet scene outside a lesser awards show on Saturday night. There was Oprah and Jay-Z, Gayle King, Tom Hanks, George Clooney, as well as a whole bunch of other people who you wouldn't recognize if you're over 30 and don't live on social media. There were a ton of them. And it was kind of a surprise to see it because Barack Obama is a genius. And we know that we can be certain of it because we have heard that claimed as fact for almost 15 years now. And yet we now know that when Barack Obama relaxes at his own house, it's not with intellectuals or even with people who can read books. It's with the kids he watches on TikTok. Obama passes around some high fives, throws on a pair of beige slip-on shoes and the world's only gray Hawaiian shirt and hits the dance floor. It's party time. But wait a second, you ask. A gray Hawaiian shirt? Is that even legal? When you're Barack Obama, it is. The normal rules don't apply to you. Remember that this is the man whose staff referred to him as Black Jesus, totally without sarcasm. So when you're parting the waters and healing the sick, you don't get too hung up on the usual fashion regulations, or for that matter, on public health regulations. There's a global pandemic out there. You may have heard about it. And it's getting worse. The CDC tells us that the so-called Delta variant is so dangerous that we can no longer have civil liberties in America. Private property rights have been suspended. Happened last week. Our children must wear masks at school again. We should not be allowed to go to dinner, fly on airplanes, have a job without first displaying our new vaccine passports. And Barack Obama supports all of that. He's for all the restrictions. But that does not mean he wants to live under those restrictions. So on Saturday, Obama's guests did not have to show their papers to get into the party. Unlike CNN employees, they didn't have to prove they were vaccinated. Unlike your kids, they didn't have to wear masks. It was like 2019 at Barack Obama's house. Like the whole pandemic thing never happened. The question is, does Tony Fauci know this? And if so, is he okay with it? That's a pressing public health question. So today we called Tony Fauci to find out. Unfortunately, he was not free to do the show. He was too busy. He's a scientist. He's not into publicity. He was tied up doing another photo shoot for Teen Vogue, so he can't come. Our loss. So to determine what the new rules are, we're just going to have to go with Tony Fauci's previous statements. And here's what we learned. When large groups of maskless people without vaccine passports gather in one place, it is a grave danger to America, but only when those people ride Harley Davidsons. On Sunday, Fauci once again scolded bikers who were gathering for their annual event in Sturgis, South Dakota. Now, these people are dangerous, Tony Fauci told us. Some of them went to community college, literally, and there are some who didn't go at all. You should be worried. It's pretty much exactly what he told us last year about the Sturgis rally, that many would die. So we checked, because numbers are important on a news show, did that happen? Whatever happened to last year's Sturgis? Well, it turned out almost 500,000 people went, about 450,000. In the end, fewer than 0.1% of them got COVID. So no, millions did not die. Actually, it was fine. But Tony Fauci did not change his guidance. He's not deterred by his own bigotry and stupid predictions, you may have noticed. So here he was the other day warning us once again about the perils of Sturgis.
But I'm very concerned, Chuck.
Bo hicca. So as Tony Fauci just explained, given how dangerous to public health those bikers at Sturgis are, you've got to wonder what the risk the rest of us face might be from Barack Obama's Martha's Vineyard birthday party. Here you have hundreds of people indoors without masks who haven't proven their vaccination status. And if the numbers tell us anything, quite a few of them were not vaccinated. Is that acceptable or not? Sincerely, that's an urgent public health question, the kind you'd think Tony Fauci exists to answer as the highest paid public sector employee. But he didn't answer the question, and as we told you, we tried, and he won't answer it. So as an epidemiological matter, where do you think Barack Obama got the idea that it's a good idea to hold huge indoor events with people who haven't proven they've gotten the shot and aren't wearing masks? How could he have determined that? Well, maybe he watched his friend Muriel Bowser, who's the mayor of D.C. She just did the very same thing. Bowser, you'll recall, forced a new mask mandate on her city, but she delayed it within hours, just long enough to hold a birthday party for herself. And that's fine. It's cool. It's not like she rides a Harley. She's a Democratic office holder. Now, if you still believe in science and are becoming slightly confused by this public health guidance, you didn't watch CNN this weekend because they laid it out in the clearest possible terms. Listen to this reporter from the New York Times explain why Barack Obama and his friends from TikTok can have maskless parties indoors without vaccine passports at the very same moment you were not allowed to visit your dying parents in the hospital. It's not arbitrary. It's not capricious. There's a reason, a medical reason. Watch. Okay, now we're talking science. So when it happens at Barack Obama's 12, by the way, that was the purchase price. We're talking an over $20 million house on the ocean that's immune from climate change. When it happens there, it's not a problem because the crowd, and we're quoting the New York Times as we say this, is, quote, sophisticated and vaccinated. Now, we don't know about the vaccinated because they didn't have to prove it. And again, if the numbers are right, a lot of them weren't vaccinated, maybe more than half. But that's not what she was saying. The emphasis here, the medically significant word, is sophisticated. Right now, the Biden administration is forcing unvaccinated people to obey every requirement that vaccinated people have to follow. It's the sophisticated crowds that are exempt from the rules. Vaccines have nothing to do with it. The question is one of sophistication. You should also know that the sophisticated in this country, the King Farouks who walk among us, towering above the rest, are also exempt from having to pay their taxes, exempt from having their police defunded, exempt from having, say, Catholic charities move penniless immigrants into their neighborhoods in the new Section 8 housing they're building on your street. They don't have to deal with any of that because they're sophisticated. It's nice to be just sophisticated. You know what, though? It's definitely bad to be unsophisticated. Because if you're unsophisticated, CNN will not come to your defense. Its anchors will not defend you when you ignore the rules. Instead, when you're unsophisticated, they will devote hours of coverage to mocking and deriding you. You'd think they'd learn. Can you imagine riding a motorcycle outside with no mask on? Reckless freaks killing the rest of us. You'd think they'd learn, but nope. That's the judgment of Dr. Don Lemon. But again, since in the end, this is a news program, we should remind you that there was actually no COVID outbreak at Sturgis last year, but somehow no one has told cable news. They're completely convinced it was a super spreader event. Go to CNN's website right now and you will find a very lengthy piece with this headline, and we're quoting, South Dakota's Sturgis motorcycle rally, a cautionary tale in the age of COVID-19. A cautionary tale. Cautioning against what? Believing the dummies at CNN? In the piece, CNN reports with horror that there are virtually no TikTok stars this year at Sturgis. They're all in Martha's Vineyard. Oprah's never even been to Sturgis. Instead, according to CNN, Sturgis involves, and we're quoting now, drag races, rock concerts, pub crawls, tattoo contests, and processions of Harley-Davidsons through the Black Hills mountain range. Whoa. Whoa. You know what that means, right? Public health disaster. Or, again, in the words of CNN, the Sturgis rally had many characteristics of a super spreading event. Large crowds, high intensity of contact between people, potential for highly infectious individuals traveling from hotspots and events in poorly ventilated indoor environments. Not at all like what they're doing under the tent in Martha's Vineyard with the TikTok kids. Turns out they're not sophisticated. They're super spreaders. And in this country, really, you're one or the other. That's your choice. The mystery of sophistication and public health. Candace Owens, it's so great to see you tonight. So, a lot of us have been thinking, how do we protect ourselves against this global pandemic? And it turns out sophistication is the most reliable prophylactic against COVID infection. CNN just told me.
That's exactly right. That's right. Hydroxychloroquine does not work, but sophistication most certainly does. So if you have a little bit of dose of sophistication, you can do whatever you want in this country, actually. You don't have to mask. You can see your relatives. I mean, it's funny, it's laughable, and it's also just so frustrating, and people are right to be angry. I mean, we spent an entire 2 years now, we're almost up to 2 years now, where people looked at people and said, are you a person that wants to go see your loved one who passed away? Do you want to attend their funeral? Do you want to go attend their funeral? You're a selfish human being. Do you want to watch your daughter get married? You're a selfish human being if you don't shut this down. Or were you, like I was, pregnant during lockdowns? Did you want your husband to attend your first ultrasound? You're a selfish, backwards human being. You're not listening to science. You're ignoring the science, right? We heard this over and over again being reinforced by the academia, by the media, by the elitist snobs who genuinely look over their balcony and they say whatever they want because they don't live like us, Tucker. They don't live like us. They don't care. Obama just had his media friends run cover, say I'm going to scale it down massively. I don't care, because at the end of the day, I'm going to celebrate my 60th birthday party. This is essentially what they said to the people. This is a story of the haves and the have-nots. The haves are laughing at the have-nots as they continue to make these Simon Says rules that everybody has to follow, absent any meaningful scientific dialogue or discussion. It's just trust the science blanket. Don't question it, or you're a horrible, backward, selfish human being.
Yeah, class war opposing is public health. I wonder, since it's gotten to the point where it's just totally transparent, it's just open. You can torch Minneapolis, but that's not a super spreader event. You can have a party in Martha's Vineyard, totally cool. Sturgis is a danger to the nation. How long do people keep participating in their own humiliation, do you think?
I think they have to stop. I have been very vocal. I have said in every single one of my regards across social media that now, especially following this birthday party, this is like just adding insult to injury here. It is really the time for civil disobedience. I want to be clear here so people don't misinterpret my words. When I say civil disobedience, I mean live your life. Yeah, go to the birthday party. Yeah, have your husband where you want him to be. Yeah, have your daughter's wedding. Stop listening to these people who don't care about you, who tell you need to wear a mask on the plane while they fly around private and don't know what it's like to have to go through an airport and be treated like you're a diseased individual. It's time to stop listening to those individuals, because they do not have to go through what you go through, and they enjoy it, by the way. They don't care. They're laughing at you and mocking you behind closed doors. They enjoy watching you suffer while they continue to live their lives.
I think it's my favorite line ever uttered on the show. Civil disobedience, like having your daughter's wedding.
Yeah,
I'm laughing because that's the option is to get really upset. I'm trying. Candace Owens, you're the best. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So we're back in our country and grateful to be here. We spent last week in Hungary. Learned a lot there. It's worth leaving once in a while just to get a little bit of perspective. We're grateful that we did. Turns out we don't have to live like this. You can have a country that's orderly and clean and pretty, that has real borders. All you need is leaders who care about you. Welcome back. Still can't get over the fact that Barack Obama was wearing a gray Hawaiian shirt. Doesn't that kind of defeat the purpose of a Hawaiian shirt? If it's gray, it's Hawaiian shirt funeral version. Sorry to sidetrack. We just got back to the United States and kind of shocked by how things are going here with Barack Obama anyway. We were in Hungary all of last week. We interviewed the Prime Minister of Hungary for a documentary series we're doing. We took a look at their border policies, which seem to be working much better than ours. Didn't expect it to be too big a deal, but while we were gone, we were denounced as fascists, suspected of, I don't know, assessing the air defenses around Paris or something, up to something really bad. So my producers decided today maybe we should admit what we were up to. A speech at a college in Hungary about, no, not invading anybody or fascism, honestly, mostly about architecture. So we're going to play you a clip from it, just to prove it. Here it is.
but I just can't resist saying this since we're standing in the middle of Central Europe, looking at this vista, which really moves me. Looking at these buildings, which move me. Not simply because they're old, and some have bullet holes, which in my view are a very useful reminder. I wish I lived in a city full of bullet holes in the building. Because every morning you look at them and you think to yourself, it could be really bad. Because it's been really bad. There's a lot at stake. Make wise, sober, long-term decisions, or else you could wind up with more bullet holes. It's true. It's true. And if I would level, and I could spend all day leveling very accurate accusations against the American foreign policy establishment, but the main one would be that they have no sense of how bad things can get. And this is the bad side of the upside of America. America's an optimistic country, always has been. Came from all around the world, showed up in this mostly untouched continent with the most fertile farmland in the world and an ocean to separate us from the lunatics. And it gave us the feeling that anything is possible and everything has been possible, and I will never stop being grateful for that or proud of it. But the downside to that, the flip side, the obverse, the other side of the coin, as you say in Hungary, is that Americans have no sense of how bad things can get. That it actually could be a lot worse. Our physical isolation cuts us off from the history of the rest of the world. There's not a passion to study what happened before in a place that you're building anew, right? Right. Yeah. So we don't have a sense of that. So I love your bullet holes. Let me just say, I'm probably the only visitor to your nation who's complimented your small arms and artillery scars. But here's what I like more about the landscape of Hungary, a few Soviet remnants notwithstanding. It's pretty. It is pretty. The buildings are pretty. The architecture uplifts. So this is another third rail in American politics. You're not allowed to note that our buildings are grotesque and dehumanizing. Why are they bad? Because they're ugly, and ugly dehumanizes us. And let me be more precise about what I mean when I say dehumanizing. Dehumanizing is the act of convincing people that they don't matter, that they are less significant than the larger whole, that they are not distinct souls, that they are not unique, that they are not created by God, that they are merely putty in the hands of some larger force, that they must obey. This is what all authoritarian movements do. You don't matter. Wear a mask. You're all the same. Ugly architecture, brutalist architecture, glass and steel architecture, Mies van der Rohe architecture was designed to send that to a press. And it is very noticeable, and this is never noted in the United States, which unfortunately over time has had its aesthetic sense dulled. We've been told it's not important. What matters is GDP, really. You know, get the new microwave or whatever, the new car, the new place in Aspen. Yeah, I'm not against any of that. I'm not against wealth, for sure. But I would trade it to live in a pretty place, a place that uplifts your spirit by looking at it. But here's the point. You behave this way if you care. If you care. If you think of your country like your home, you don't want it to look crappy. It's really that simple. If it's your house, you want to be in charge of who sleeps there. That's not a complex principle. It's the most basic human principle. So as I'm standing at the border, literally at the border fence, thinking about this, watching the German Shepherd amble past, I was trying to talk to a border guard who, by the way, like, as noted, like every Hungarian I have met, from the driver to the waiter to the border guard, had better English than our own president. I said, how often do people come to the border? How often do you see migrants putting ladders atop the concertina wire? Is this like every hour, every day? Is it at night during the, I'm trying to ask the dumb journalist questions. And he said, well, and then he stopped and he looked down like very intensely, like something bad had happened. And I'm from the US where we have poisonous snakes. So I immediately thought, you know, I don't know if they have cobras in Hungary. Again, I don't speak the language. So I stepped back and there is a plastic sandwich bag about that big on the ground, stuck at the bottom of the chain link fence. And this guard reaches down, grabs the bag and puts it in his own pocket. And I don't think I've I have seen in my life very few displays more powerful than that.
Bottom line, we don't have to live this way. Walk through Midtown Manhattan, which the people in charge right now did not build. Previous generations built it. And watch what the people now in charge have let happen to it. We don't have to live like that. If we have people who care, we'll live in a great country. It's that simple. That was the MCC Festival in Hungary, by the way. As we said, we were there for a new episode of our long-form documentary series, Tucker Carlson Originals. It'll be out soon on foxnation.com. So we're about to do something after the break that we've never done before. We are going to defend Chris Cuomo. And we can promise you not a single picture of his sweaty workouts. No kidding. That's as of 8:33 Eastern Time on August 9th, 2021. Andrew Cuomo is still the governor of New York. Can't promise that's going to last much longer. We're not sure, but Fox's Matt Finn has been on this story and brings us the very latest now. Hey, Matt.
Tucker, Brittany Commisso is one of 11 women that have accused Governor Andrew Cuomo of sexual harassment. Commisso is named as Executive Assistant #1 in the Attorney General's report, and she says while taking a selfie, the governor inappropriately touched her.
I then felt, while taking the selfie, his hand go down my back onto my butt, and he started rubbing it. Not sliding it, not, quickly brushing over it, rubbing my butt.
Commisso also alleges the governor gave her hugs that she says were not the type he would give his mother or brother, rather the type seeking sexual satisfaction. She says those hugs were not normal or welcome. The governor has denied inappropriately touching anyone. Cuomo even released a reel of himself kissing and hugging people, suggesting it's his normal behavior. There are growing calls tonight for the governor to resign. Even the president says Cuomo should step down. The New York State Assembly right now is conducting an impeachment investigation. Its findings could be released as early as the end of this month. The New York State Assembly only needs a simple majority vote to move forward with that impeachment trial. Tucker.
Matt Finn. Thanks so much for that.
Thank you.
So Andrew Cuomo's a weirdo. He's a butt rubber. Terrible governor, actually. But tonight we want to pause. Cuomo's a weirdo. He's a butt rubber. Terrible governor, actually. But tonight we want to pause from piling on Andrew Cuomo, which we'll be happy to resume tomorrow, and take a moment to defend the chief bodybuilding correspondent over at CNN, who is his brother. We're not going to show any pictures of Chris Cuomo flexing on camera. We've done that before. We're just going to note that in the middle of this scandal that may remove his brother from office, Chris Cuomo decided he's going to go on vacation. Now, we know what you're thinking. Could this really be a vacation? But CNN broke into its extended coverage of Sturgis to answer that question. Yes, it's a real vacation. Here's their position on his vacation.
Telling a well-off host to hang out by the pool for a couple of weeks is not a real punishment. It's BS when Fox sends a host off on vacation during a scandal. Scolding a host in public, saying what they did was inappropriate, that is an actual punishment. Chris is going to have a surreal birthday on Monday. He always takes his birth week off. He always takes it off work. But this year he's going to be absent while his brother is fighting for his political life, trying to stop this impeachment train. And bad faith actors are going to say Chris has been canceled or something when they don't see him on air on Monday. Don't believe it. I checked with sources on his staff, and they confirmed that he booked this time off months ago.
Can that kid be real? He's got to be a plant from MSNBC. There's no chance that he's actually acting on behalf of CNN. He's too discrediting. But anyway, we're just playing you the tape, and you can evaluate it for yourself. So this is CNN's position. When one of our anchors takes a vacation, it's totally real. But if you work at Fox News, all vacations are Potemkin vacations. That was Don Lemon's position when we went fishing a couple of years ago.
Tucker Carlson is on vacation as of tonight, due back on the 19th. Fox News has a long history of their hosts heading out on vacation after they become engulfed in controversy over inflammatory comments.
Oh, yes, Don Lemon. The plane probably flew into a black hole. Yeah, for sure. To paraphrase Sigmund Freud, sometimes a vacation is just a vacation, and we're willing to believe that Chris Cuomo's vacation is just a vacation. Two other quick things about Chris Cuomo, in total sincerity. One, you're not responsible for the misbehavior of your relatives. Sorry, you didn't choose them. In fact, you're not responsible for anyone else's misbehavior, only your own. That's just true. It's the basis of American justice, and it's the basis of human decency. Don't blame people for things they didn't do. And the other point to make is Chris Cuomo is coming under a lot of fire for helping his brother in the middle of this crisis. Now, we can't evaluate how true that is. But if it is true, let's be real for a second. It's understandable. It's his brother. Your loyalty should be to your family above all else. Not joking at all. Maybe even above your job. Maybe even above Jeff Zucker. If your brother calls and says, I need help, if you don't give him help because you're pretending to be a news anchor on some stupid cable channel nobody watches, you're betraying your brother. And that's a greater sin than any of the dumb politics they espouse on that channel. Totally true. So we're not going to criticize him for that. One more piece of advice, Chris Cuomo. Take a break from the curls on vacation. You'll enjoy it better. So several Republicans in the Senate, a number of them, appear to be supporting the Biden administration's new infrastructure bill, a lot of which has nothing to do with infrastructure. The bill would, among other things, force people to have monitoring their devices in their cars. So you would need permission from your federal overlords before starting your vehicle in the morning. The bill would also legalize yet more racial discrimination in the name of equity, which is the opposite of what America is about, or should ever be about. Not many Republicans have said much about this. Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana, in fact, just tweeted, he's a good guy most of the time, but he just tweeted this defense of the bill's equity provisions. Quote, critical race theory is not in this bill, never has been. Equity is not a catchphrase for critical race theory. Of course, equity is the whole justification for critical race theory. It's important to know what you're talking about before you weigh in on social media. One of the only Republican senators we can find who's doing anything to stop this bill is Bill Hagerty of Tennessee, and we're happy to have him join us tonight. Senator, thanks so much for coming on. So many of your colleagues who you work with closely and lots of other things who I'm sure that you like personally are not only supporting this bill, but actively defending it in public, but you are doing exactly the opposite. Why?
Well, this bill has become rather obvious what it really is. It's been shielded with the veneer of bipartisanship, but what it really has become is the open gateway to lead right into this $3.5 trillion package, the Bernie Sanders Transformation of America package that they're trying to set up. And they gave us a 2,700-page bill in only a few days to look at it. And then the very afternoon that we got the CBO score that tells what the bill actually cost, it fell short by $250 billion. What's the response of the leadership? What's Chuck Schumer's response? Let's go ahead and accelerate it, rush it through tonight. Let's put this in our rearview mirror so we can get on to the bigger part of this transformation of America. I said, no, we're not going to accelerate it. We're going to expose it to the light of day. And the more we're able to talk about it, I mean, that's the reason we're having this conversation right now. We've had the opportunity to let the American public understand what's in this bill. We let them understand what it cost. And now what we're seeing is real positive movement in our direction. A couple of senators have already changed their positions and are not going to vote for this bill now, even though they were going to support it before. I think we're putting a lot of pressure on the House of Representatives. I think it'll be very difficult for Democrats in these swing districts there to continue to support this as the light of day comes to bear and as their taxpayers, as their citizens understand exactly what's in this bill.
Yeah, so if it's an infrastructure bill, that suggests it's for everybody, regardless of what you look like, regardless of how you were born. What is equity? What does your race have to do with, say, fixing the George Washington Bridge, which is swaying, or making our airports less grotesque? Like, why add that?
It has absolutely nothing to do with it. Yet, this is going to empower Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg to determine how racist the system is and how he's going to fix it. Equity, again, is the code word for redistribution. It's not equality, which is what the foundation of this nation is.
Of course.
It's the absolute opposite of that.
I mean, no offense, but like, if you're a Republican voter and you're desperate for somebody to defend you, to stand up and say, this is totally anti-American what you're doing, how should you feel when all these Republicans, some of them are pretty good guys, I know a bunch of them, but they're on board with this stuff? Like, what, do they understand the message that they're sending to their voters by? Yeah.
I think we've been lectured for 4 years about the fact that Republicans under Trump didn't respect our institutions, but as soon as the Democrats take control, they moved to federalize our elections, to basically pack the court, and now they've taken the attempt to basically give us zero time to evaluate a 2,700-page bill that's fallen $250 billion short in terms of it being funded and paid for as advertised. So the time is now to push back on this, and that's exactly what I've done. And I think that my colleagues need to take this time to really look hard at this bill and what's in it. And I hope that it will affect their decision when it comes time to vote.
Yeah, you're probably not going to win Lindsey Graham, who's just like actively working for the Democratic Party, but I bet there are others who you can convince by your example. We appreciate your coming on tonight. Senator Bill Hagerty, thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
So you probably have the feeling there's some weird stuff going on in Hollywood. Anthony Pellicano knows exactly what's going on in Hollywood. He was by far the most famous fixer in all of Los Angeles. He went to prison for a very long time for things that happened. He's out. He's highly informed. He's a great guy. And we talked to him at some length after the break.